Well, the Fantastic Four was the first of the Marvel books. It was the first true Marvel comic. Stan Lee and Jack Kirby pioneering their new approach to doing superheroes, which essentially was to take figures who were very one-dimensional characters up until that point and make them 2- and 3-dimensional, giving them individual personalities, giving them personal problems, not putting them through just stock situations, but creating a little soap operas around their lives. Really, it all sort of boils down to the notion that in the Marvel books, the individual inside the costume is really the important part, and really what the series is about, not the costume. Jack leaving meant that the whole tenor of the strip changed. In fact, John Romita, who was around at the time, really was convinced, because it was so associated with Kirby, that they were just going to end the book, that nobody else could do it. And the story goes that he went to Stan saying, "What are we going to do? Jack is leaving. Who's going to be Fantastic Four?" And Stan went, "You are!" And John was all nervous and panicky, and he got all of his, a stack of old Kirby FFs for reference, and sat down to sweat his way through the next couple of issues. I think he did 4 all told, before eventually John Buscema came on. And at least in the short term, the numbers went up a little bit. It's a little bit better. But in terms of it being, Fantastic Four being just this factory of crazy ideas and new characters and new concepts, it's not like there wasn't new stuff that came after Stan and Jack stopped doing the book, but the time at which it was really the fulcrum of the Marvel Universe, where all this stuff exploded out of, and all these new things, then pollinated all the other books, kind of drew to a close. Not really by anybody's intention, it's just sort of what happened. John was very much influenced by not just the Stan and Jack Fantastic Four, but particularly really early Stan and Jack Fantastic Four, the comics that he read when he became a real fan of the FF. And he sort of looked at the thing and was trying to get it back to some of the elements that he felt it had lost over the years, just by the nature of guys who adventure every single month and all these things that more interesting ideas became tropes or just became cliches, or were just taken for granted. The Thing by that point was so ubiquitous. He was appearing in 2 titles. Even his physical form had kind of simplified out. He was almost cartoony. He was a big teddy bear. So one of the first things John did was, I'm going to have Reed try to cure him, and it's not going to work, and I'm going to turn him back into something closer to the sort of lumpy, misshapen Thing of the really early issues, which I'm really doing to underscore the idea that this guy is monstrous. It is not pleasant to be the Thing. He can't walk down the street and have everybody pat him on the back and just be a guy. This is a guy that has a serious life-altering condition. He's like a burn victim, so to speak. For all the upside of, he's really strong and powerful, and he gets to do all these cool things, he's a tragic character. The tragedy of the character had kind of given way to bathos over the years. So John was trying to plug back into that. There's a cover around 375, and it's the FF. It's all of them. They're ready to go into action, and they're all carrying big guns, big Kirby guns, and they're all wearing jackets, because jackets and pouches were a big thing, including the Human Torch, who's on fire except for his jacket, which makes you just ask the question: what's with the jacket? Was he cold? What is he doing wearing a jacket over? It looked ridiculous. This was also the period where Sue, for a while, had the strange cut-out, see-through costume. She'd been influenced by the evil Malice and was turned to the dark side. This was an expression of that, but it just seemed wrong. It was like seeing your mom in lingerie. It was just a bad scene. Heroes Reborn was a fairly traumatic thing on a number of levels. Certainly, from a staff perspective, it was a chaotic thing. They were going to outsource these books to other people. But even beyond that, it was the first time that there was an actual break in the narrative of the Marvel Universe. These characters were going to be stopped and restarted from scratch and restarted over here, and they weren't going to be in the other books. And that was kind of a traumatic thing that we still haven't entirely recovered from. It changed everything about the Marvel Universe, and the fact that we'll now renumber a book to number 1 at the drop of a hat kind of comes out of the fact that we've now had these breaks, and so there is no constant consistency for despite the fact that there have been 600 issues of Fantastic Four. Fantastic Four was one of those books that had really enormous highs over the years, but also had long periods where it was sort of running on momentum, it was sort of running on reputation. It wasn't the most popular book, and it wasn't the most forward-looking book, but it was just sort of a perennial. It had sort of become taken for granted. It was calcified into, it's these characters, and they're always this way, and this is the kind of thing we do. And in trying to be respectful to the past, you almost became immobilized in what you could do. And yet, at the same time, you don't want to throw out the classic things that were the hallmarks of the series. Every once in a while, guys would try to push Fantastic Four in a different direction, and it would just feel alien, at least to me as a reader. Not necessarily to everybody else, but to me coming to this. So I had a bunch of fairly strong ideas as to what I thought we needed to do on Fantastic Four. Some of it was to make it seem and feel new, but not to throw out the essential optimism and future-looking mindset that it always had. There was the hurl kerfluffle around that time when they were going to be taken off the book, and then things changed and they got to stay on the book. And to some degree, I look at every issue that we did beyond 508, which would have been the last issue, as kind of like a little gift. So everything from 509 to 524, every one of those is a little extra special because in some world, none of those should have happened. None of them should have existed. I don't like this. I like them better than the other ones, but there's a little extra charge to. These weren't really supposed to be here in one version of the world, but here they are, and they did come to pass. Among the things that he came in with right at the beginning was, and then I'm going to kill the Human Torch, and the Human Torch dies here. He goes, this thing happens, and so I bought in on that fairly early, talking about the story. We're going to do this, and this is going to happen, and this is what it is. And as these things tended to be, we were able to promote it in such a way, and we were able to execute it in such a way that it became a bigger thing than we really imagined that it would have been when we were first coming up with it. We thought it would be an exciting story, it'll get some attention, maybe we'll get a little sales blip, but not quite the monstrous thing that it became. And two, sort of re-envisioning and remaking the Fantastic Four, that really has been the goal of the run throughout, from the get-go. And it's only taken Jonathan 36 to 40 issues to actually get there, because that's the way he operates. He doesn't change things on a dime. He has it all evolve kind of naturally out of the characters and the stories. We're not even quite there yet. There's still another there that we're getting to that'll happen in the early 600s of Fantastic Four, at which point he'll finally be ready to tell the Fantastic Four stories that he wants to tell.
Marvel, your universe.